John Scott scores 2 in the All-Star game, wins MVP, and shows even that the knuckle-dragging Goons has more heart, skill, and fortitude than any of those bullshit writers and NHL executives that didn't want him to play. We're going to talk about the importance of what John Scott did and a whole lot more right here, right now on Dead on Dave Productions. Let's go.
So many pieces all back together now. What's your vision?
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Dead on Dave. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dave talking hockey on his own channel? That doesn't happen very often, and you're 100% right. It doesn't happen very often because I do that over at my buddy's channel, Tommy C, over at Shot from the Point, most badass hockey podcast I know of. So make sure you go check that out. But 9:14 in the morning here in beautiful Germany, and I decided we had to make a video because what John Scott has done over the course of this all-star weekend in the NHL, it's just something that doesn't happen. It's a reminder of what sports truly are about. You know, a lot of people, including the NHL, who tried to screw him mercilessly by getting him traded to a team that was just going to demote him and not allow him to play in the All-Star game, they didn't feel that he deserved to be here because he's a goon, because he's an enforcer, because he fights for a living in the NHL. He's had a pretty successful career of doing so. Yeah, he's got 5 goals in his career, but who gives a shit? There are so many different purposes and important pieces to an NHL franchise, to NHL Stanley Cup winning franchises, that some things are immeasurable. You cannot measure them by stats or anything. It's about heart, grit, determination, intimidation, and so many other things. And John Scott embodies all of those things and so much more. A lesser man, a lesser player would have walked away from this. They would have listened to the Coyotes. They would have listened to the NHL. They would have listened to all the sports writers who said, you don't belong and you shouldn't be playing in this game. It was a joke. It was a farce. The fans were making fun of you. When the reality is the fans were simply making fun of the bullshit NHL's stupid ass fan voting in policy. They took advantage of it and they put in a guy that, yeah, maybe made fun of the entire system. But what we got is a moment in sports that just doesn't happen very often. We got fans, some sports writers, and a whole bunch of fat bloggers and and YouTubers that came out and supported this guy and showed that they weren't ready to say goodbye to a little thing called integrity, you know, and what is right. And the reality is, John Scott got voted into the All-Star game. He got voted in as captain. He had every right to play. And because he did, the NHL is going to reap the rewards of what happened over this weekend. Jersey sales skyrocketing right now for John Scott and probably for a lot of other players too. Ratings. I can almost guarantee this is going to be one of the highest rated NHL All-Star games of all time. And of course, the NHL, being who they are, is going to say, it's because we changed to 3-on-3. No, it's because there's a human interest story here that just completely supersedes anything else that could have happened on that ice. Now, nobody was expecting John Scott to go out there and hit a 95-mile-an-hour slap shot in the skills competition. Nobody really thought he was going to go out there and have 1, let alone 2 goals. 1 really, really pretty in the All-Star game itself. A guy like John Scott, a 6'5" bruiser, a guy who fights for a living, a guy who is a change of pace type of player. He had no business being in a 3-on-3 and scoring the goals that he did. Well, guess what? He did it. He did it. He did it with gusto. He did it with pride. He did it with poetry. He did a fantastic job. And he remind all of us exactly what sports truly means. Why we're fans. Why these guys are players. It's because of guys like John Scott. The things that John Scott did in this All-Star game cannot be overstated. Because guess what? There's a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid somewhere out there in America, Canada, who loves hockey. Been playing hockey his whole life. He's not a scorer. No. He doesn't have the vision of a Patrick Kane, the hands of a Pavel Datsyuk. No, he doesn't have any of that. He can't deke anyone to save his life. But what he can do is stand up for his teammates. He can lead. He can be tough. He can get into the crease. He can get into the places that other people don't want to go. He'll block a shot. He'll rough somebody up if need be. He'll place the hits that'll protect those major scorers on his team. That's what he does. And guess what? He just got told over this weekend that he can succeed, that he can make it at the highest level of hockey, that there is no standard definition for what he is able to accomplish. That's what that kid got told. That's what that 14, 15, 16-year-old kid now believes because of John Scott. That one day that he could be an MVP of an NHL All-Star game. It's possible. No matter how unlikely, up until this moment, it wasn't possible, but now it is. And it's because of a joke. It's because of a movement. It's because of a gutsy man who decided that he was not going to lay down and let anybody else dictate who he was going to be. He could have walked in with his head down and just went through the motions and enjoyed his All-Star game weekend. He could have done that, but he didn't. He didn't. He didn't skate, for lack of a better word, through anything. He flew through it. He came out the other end as an absolute star. And it's unfortunate that he's going to be sent down to the AHL. But I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of teams out there who might be looking at John Scott in a different light come Monday morning. There are a lot of championship caliber teams that could use a guy of John Scott's skills. How about the Chicago Blackhawks? You always use a little bit extra toughness. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be able to break any of the lines of what the Hawks have because of all their depth. But a guy like that, they're invaluable. What about a team like the Pittsburgh Penguins, who need a little bit of toughness, a little bit of leadership? He'd be perfect for that. There's so many teams that he can affect, and I guarantee you he will get back in the NHL this season. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that even if it's just for jersey sales, because the team wants to up their jersey sales by releasing a Dallas Stars John Scott jersey, somebody's going to take a chance at this guy because he is now, for one, he's a ratings juggernaut. He's a marketing juggernaut. Two, you can't buy this type of heart. This type of heart is just, you can't teach it. You either have it or you don't. And John Scott has it. So thank you, John Scott. The NHL should be thanking you for what you did over this weekend, because you gave them the best All-Star game and maybe the greatest moment in any All-Star game history. So John Scott deserves to be applauded for what he did, and I'm glad that he and his family were able to enjoy this weekend. Congratulations to you, John Scott. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Thank you guys very much. I hope you all enjoyed it. That was just my take on the whole John Scott situation. Make sure you guys are checking out everything that's going on within the channel. This is Dead on Dave Productions. We do hockey, we do sports, we do wrestling, we do interviews, we do unboxings, we do video games, we do everything. So make sure you check us out. Like, subscribe, and share. And we'll be live tonight after Monday Night Raw for the Monday Night Raw review. Make sure you're here for that, taking your calls, answering your questions, and talking about everything that happened on Monday Night Raw. Thank you guys very much. I'm Dead on Dave. We'll see you next time right here on Dead on Dave Productions. And as always, if you don't have talent, have talented friends. Peace.